In the United States, firefighters are struggling to extinguish fire in historic wooden hangar.
Fire authorities say the blaze could burn for days. More details on this later in the news. Good evening, I am Gianna Llanes.
I am Nina Richie-Elago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Now for the headlines. Philippines commemorates 10 years since Super Typhoon Yolanda. Timor-Leste President Jose Ramos Horta arrives in the Philippines for an official visit. The United States denounces Israel's reoccupation of the Gaza Strip. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken calls for a clear voice in the G7 for Gaza. And find out the biggest names in music to be included in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame class of 2023. The Philippine Congress is in disarray after the House of Representatives stripped Pampanga 2nd District Gloria Macapagal Arroyo and Davao City 3rd District Congressman Isidro Ungab of their titles. The two Solons have released a statement regarding their ousting. Arroyo's statement reads, and I quote, "I'm currently out of the country. However, as I always said, I continue to support the leadership of Speaker Romualdez." On the other hand, Ungab's statement reads, and I quote, "I accept the decision of the House leadership to remove me from my position as Deputy Speaker. I have been in Congress long enough to understand the dynamics and interpersonal relations among its members. I would like to thank all those who were instrumental in making my tenure as Deputy Speaker meaningful, memorable, and worthwhile. Despite my removal, I remain supportive of this administration, believing in its program of government, as I have also helped in the campaign last year in the belief that it can bring a better hope and future for the Filipino people. I accept my fate without any rancor nor bitterness. I leave the Deputy Speakership's position assured that I have performed my duties well with the best intentions and great love for my country." Meanwhile, in a statement, House Majority Leader Manuel Jose Dalipe said that Arroyo and Ungab were the only deputy speakers who did not co-sign on House Resolution 1414. His statement reads, "The House leadership, in its collective capacity and after careful deliberation, has made the decision to relieve Deputy Speakers Gloria Macapagal Arroyo and Isidro Ungab of their leadership positions. This decision stems from the fact that out of the 9 deputy speakers, only Deputy Speakers Macapagal Arroyo and Ungab chose not to sign a pivotal House resolution sponsored by the entire leadership."
I move to elect Representative Antonio Tonipet Albano as Deputy Speaker, Vice Representative Gloria Macapagal Arroyo.
There is a motion to elect the Honorable Antonio Tonipet Albano as Deputy Speaker, Vice the Honorable Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. Is there any objection? The Chair hears none. The motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to elect Representative Yasser Alonto Balindong as Deputy Speaker, Vice Representative Isidro Ungab. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
There is a motion to elect the Honorable Yasser Alonto Balindong as Deputy Speaker, Vice the Honorable Isidro Ungab. Is there any objection? The Chair hears none. The motion is approved.
Today marks the 10th anniversary of Super Typhoon Haiyan or Yolanda's devastation in the country. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. attended the program as he thanked all nations, sectors, and organizations who provided the necessary assistance to survivors of Yolanda. The President urged the Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development, as well as the National Housing Authority, to fast-track the provision of housing units and land titles to the beneficiaries.
The work is not done. There are still many who continue to await our assistance. So we have engaged the Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development and the National Housing Authority to accelerate the provision of housing units and land titles to our beneficiaries.
Meanwhile, the president also launched the Handa Pilipinas Visayas as part of the administration's commitment to feature the various disaster risk reduction and management initiatives of the government. The president underscored the Department of Science and Technology has become an instrument in developing cutting-edge technologies for disaster risk preventions.
I am confident that the technologies featured in this event, such as the mobile command post, the triaging trailer tent, the collapsible toilet bowl, upgraded emergency disinfection system, fire blankets, unsinkable portaboat, and water ambulance, amongst others, will be of great help during relief and rescue operations.
Yolanda made landfall in eastern Visayas on November 8, 2013, claiming more than 6,000 lives and destroying hundreds of homes.
In a recent interview with a local television station in Davao, the former President Rodrigo Duterte vehemently denied any involvement in alleged destabilization plots against President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. This denial comes in response to comments made by Armed Forces Chief General Romeo Brawner Jr., who mentioned hearing about a destabilization plot involving some retired generals and hinted at the former president's involvement. While Duterte acknowledged having conversations with some retired generals, he firmly denied any involvement in plotting destabilization or a coup. He suggested that he may have misquoted, emphasizing that he does not believe there is a significant issue of corruption in the government at this time and that he does not see any political turmoil. The former president concluded by calling for support for President Marcos and urging people to give him a chance to work towards achieving his government's goals. Senator Amy Marcos also expressed her unwavering support for Duterte. She likened herself to her father, the late President Ferdinand Marcos Sr., in her commitment to loyalty and standing by true friends, even in challenging times.
The Philippine Statistics Authority has released a report indicating a significant decrease in employment rate, with 2.26 million Filipinos currently without jobs, likely due to limited job opportunities and heightened inflation in September. The data reveals a national employment rate of 4.5%, reflecting a drop in Filipinos with jobs from the 2.21 million unemployed individuals recorded in August. Additionally, the labor force participation during this period decreased to 49.93 million, down from the 50.29 million reported in August. The report further highlights a decrease of 722,000 in employment compared to the previous year, largely attributed to the impact of the elevated inflation rate. Specific subsectors such as non-specialized stores selling food and beverages and retail sales of food in specialized stores have been particularly affected. Several other sectors have also experienced significant annual declines in employment, including manufacturing, agriculture and forestry, financial and insurance activities, among others.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. is scheduled to participate in the 30th Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation or APEC Leaders Summit, which will take place in San Francisco, California.
The President is attending this year's 30th APEC Economic Leaders Meeting, which will be held on November 15, 16, and 17 in San Francisco, California, USA. The APEC Leaders Meeting is the culmination of the year-long chairmanship and hosting by the United States of APEC in 2023.
This year's APEC Summit is themed Creating a Resilient and Sustainable Future for All, with a primary focus on fostering sustainability, inclusivity, and resilience to promote a peaceful and prosperous APEC region. President Marcos' agenda at the summit will revolve around advancing the economic interests of the Philippines. Key areas of focus include energy, healthcare, digitalization, and climate change, among others. Additionally, during his week-long trip, President Marcos will make a visit to the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command headquarters in Hawaii. During this visit, it is expected that he will engage with top U.S. officials and possibly raise concerns related to the South China Sea dispute.
Timor-Leste President Jose Ramos-Horta arrived in the Philippines for an official visit aimed at strengthening bilateral relations between the two nations. During the state visit, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. is expected to engage in discussions with Ramos Horta regarding various areas of cooperation between the Philippines and Timor-Leste. These areas include technical, political, educational, and economic partnerships. Timor-Leste recently participated in the 42nd ASEAN Summit as an observer, with President Marcos expressing his satisfaction with Timor-Leste's journey toward becoming a democratic state. He also extended his support for the country to become an ASEAN member.
The Philippines and the United States Marine Corps are set to join this year's kaagapay ng mga mandirigma ng dagat or Kamandag exercises. Vin Pasco reports.
Philippine Marine Corps Deputy Commandant Brigadier General Jimmy Larida said about 1,732 Filipino Marines and 902 United States Marine Corps would participate in the Kamandag drills. The said drills are scheduled to run on November 9 and will end on November 17, 2023. Kamandag drills aim to enhance the two forces' interoperability through activities to take place in various locations in Luzon and Mindanao. Larida said that the drills also seek to bolster bilateral cooperation among participating forces in conducting tactical operations. Among participants in the said drills are the personnel of the Republic of Korea Marine Corps and Japan Ground Self-Defense Force. Meanwhile, 8 personnel from the United Kingdom will be observers of the annual exercise. Vin Pascua reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Top leaders of Socorro Bayanihan Services Incorporated, or SBSI, have been arrested over violations of human rights, particularly child trafficking. It is reported that over 1,000 children were affected by SBSI's actions. Testimonies have revealed that minors were subjected to forced marriages with adults and even locked in rooms until they engaged in sexual intercourse. Senator Ronald De La Rosa confirmed that the court issued non-bailable warrants of arrest for SBSI President J. Renz Kilario and 12 other leaders. He also suggested that the Department of Environment and Natural Resources should also investigate the potential revocation of the Protected Area Community-Based Resource Management Agreement with SBSI. The respondents are now facing a total of 21 violations, including 9 counts of qualified trafficking, 8 counts of child abuse, and facilitation of child marriage.
The Department of Transportation has assured the Japanese government that the workers for the entire operation of the Metro Manila subway project are well equipped. This is after Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida visited the Philippines last weekend. The Japanese government is funding 5 railway projects amounting to about 1.315 trillion yen. Transportation Undersecretary for Railway Cesar Chavez vowed that railway engineers and technicians will receive quality training to prepare them for the entire operation of the said project. Chavez informed Kishida the training is underway to prepare Filipino engineers and technicians for the MRT-7 operation in 2025.
Coming up, the White House rejects the possibility of Israel occupying the Gaza Strip. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken appeals to the G7 Foreign Ministers Summit. And the WHO is concerned over the toll the Israel-Hamas war is taking on the children of Gaza. Stay tuned. Mata ng Agila International will return for more global news.
Parang ang hirap ng huminga, di ba? Minsan pakiramdam mo, hopeless na. Kaya dapat ihayag ang saloobin, himayin ang hinaing, alamin ang pwedeng gawin. Mag-reality check tayo.
Sa panahon ng kalamidad, sakuna at trahedya, maraming grupo at individual na lumalabas para tumulong sa kapwa. Kaya kung kayo po ay may kilala, nakakaiba at natatangi ang ginagawang pagresponde sa lipunan, mag-text sa 0915-415-1035 o mag-email sa responde@net25.com. Pwede rin kayo magpadala na mensahe sa ating pong Facebook page at Net25TV. Panahon na para kilalanin natin ang ating mga certified e-responders. Sabado, alas 6 hanggang alas 7 ng gabi. Dito lamang sa Net25.
Welcome back to Mata ng Agila International. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. expresses his heartfelt gratitude to the Department of Foreign Affairs and the embassies of Israel, Jordan, and Egypt for ensuring the safe passage of 40 Filipino nationals from the Gaza Strip. Christina Gira tells us more.
Kinagagalak kong ibalita na 4 na po sa ating mga kababayan ay ligtas at matagumpay na nakatawid ng Rafah crossing sa Egypt mula sa Israel. Sila ngayon ay patungo sa Cairo, kung saan sila magmumula para makauwi ng tuluyan sa ating bansa sa susunod na mga araw.
The president also extends his appreciation to the Israeli and Egyptian governments for giving priority to Filipino citizens during this challenging time. He highlights the crucial mediation efforts by Qatar, which played a pivotal role in reopening the borders of these nations and facilitating the safe return of Filipinos. President Marcos remains optimistic that the remaining Filipinos who are eagerly waiting for the signal to exit the Rafah border will soon be reunited with their families. He assures that he will continue to provide updates on the situation of Filipinos affected by the ongoing Israel-Hamas conflict. As of the latest data, 135 Filipinos are still in the Gaza Strip, with 6 of them having requested repatriation. Christina Gira for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The United States confirms that as of Tuesday, more than 400 Americans have left Gaza. Meanwhile, additional aid trucks have entered the Palestinian enclave, bringing the total to close to 570 trucks since October 21. Kimioria tells us more.
United States National Security Council spokesman John Kirby confirms that more Americans are expected to leave via the Rafah border crossing.
On the idea of people getting out, so we do expect more individuals to depart Gaza today via the Rafah crossing. To date, there's been over 400 U.S. citizens and their families who have been able to depart and have been seeking the assistance of our consular team at the embassy in Cairo. And in just the last 24 hours, about 96, so just under 100 U.S. citizens and family members were able to move across that border. And as I said, it's very fluid. We won't get the final count until the end of the day today because the day is still going on. But we do expect that there'll be more Americans to come out today.
This after close to an additional 100 U.S. citizens left Gaza. Kirby also says that more aid trucks have entered the war-torn Palestinian enclave, bringing the total to 569.
I can tell you that over the last 24 hours, 93 trucks were able to enter Gaza through the Rafah border. That was as of yesterday. That brings the total to 569 trucks since October 21st. And as we've said many times before, we know that's not enough. It's a trickle. I mean, as a matter of fact, before October 7th, that's about the number that was getting in every day.
Meanwhile, Israel says its forces are operating in the heart of Gaza City a month after Hamas's October 7 attacks. This as the campaign to crush the Palestinian militants intensifies. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu also issues a stark warning in Hezbollah in Lebanon. Hezbollah, like Hamas, is backed by Iran. Kimi Oria for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Doctors Without Borders is also calling for a ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas conflict. This, the group says, is the only way to stop the hemorrhage and save lives. Estela Dominique has the details.
Head of Emergency Operations at Doctors Without Borders, Michael Olivier Lacarite, says only a ceasefire can stop the hemorrhage and save lives in war-ravaged Gaza. Lacarite speaks as the war between Israel and Hamas has entered its 32nd day. He says with the 25,000 injured, it is safe to assume there are several thousands with injuries, burns, and amputations. Lacarite says they are talking about people who need hospital beds for a long time. He says this entails several weeks while some patients will need care for several months. At present, he says there are 3,500 beds, 2,000 of which are in the north and practically non-functional. He says to think that humanitarian operations could increase by several thousand beds is highly unlikely. Only a ceasefire, he stresses, can help keep patients from dying. Estela Dominique for Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
A month after Israel's war with Hamas, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says there would be no entry of gasoline, no ceasefire in Gaza without the release of hostages. EJ Gonzalez tells us more.
Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Tuesday there will be no fuel delivered to the Gaza Strip and no ceasefire in Israel's fighting with Hamas unless the more than 240 hostages seized by the Palestinian militants are freed. Israel's Defense Minister Yoav Gallant underscores the country's determination to destroy Hamas. Gallant says Israeli forces are now in the heart of Gaza City. Gaza, he says, is the largest terrorist base ever built. Netanyahu and Gallant spoke on a day of commemoration in Israel to mark the grim one-month milestone. Israel vows to destroy the Islamist militants over their shock attack. It launched a campaign in the Gaza Strip that has killed more than 10,300 people, according to the Hamas-run health ministry. EJ Gonzalez for Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
United States President Joe Biden will not support an Israeli military reoccupation of the Gaza Strip after the Israel-Gaza war ends. White House spokesman John Kirby has said, and I quote, Joe Biden believes that a reoccupation by Israeli forces of Gaza is not the right thing to do.
We're having active discussions with our Israeli counterparts about what post-conflict Gaza ought to look like. The president maintains his position that a reoccupation by Israeli forces is not the right thing to do. We'll let them speak to their intentions, but we are definitely having conversations about what the post-conflict environment ought to look like and what governance in Gaza ought to look like.
These comments come a day after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu suggested that Israel would take control of security in Gaza after the war. Kirby also stated that there needs to be a healthy set of conversations about what post-conflict Gaza would look like and what their governance system would be.
President Biden's been very clear we don't support a reoccupation of Gaza by the Israeli Defense Forces. We do think that there needs to be a healthy set of conversations about what post-conflict Gaza looks like and what governance looks like. What we absolutely agree with our Israeli counterparts on is what it can't look like, and it can't look like it looked on October 6th.
Gaza could already be considered an occupied territory because Israel has full control of its borders, airspace, and territorial waters, imposing a siege severely restricting access to food, water, and electricity and cutting off fuel supplies for the more than 2.3 million people trapped in the Strip. A small amount of aid has entered through the Rafah crossing with Egypt, but it also proved to be a challenge for United Nations aid to enter due to the regular bombardments Israel has been carrying out in the region.
The Biden administration urged the appeals court to uphold new asylum restrictions. The rule, which limits asylum for migrants who enter the United States illegally, pass through other nations without seeking protection, was deemed to violate federal immigration law. But a lawyer for the administration urges that the rule includes exceptions and is therefore valid. Courts blocked similar measures under the Trump government. But some advocates argue that the rules are recycled Trump-era policies that violate the United States law allowing people to seek asylum no matter how and where they arrive. Local reports say the judges didn't rule immediately and gave no indication how they were leaning.
United States Secretary of State Antony Blinken has called on the group of 7 foreign ministers to speak in a clear voice about the Israel-Hamas war. This came upon his arrival in Japan after his tour to the Middle East. In 2 days, the meeting has come to a conclusion for the G7 to provide support on humanitarian pauses and corridors, however, refrain from calling for a ceasefire. Meanwhile, the group also said that their support for Ukraine in its war with Russia will never waver, while calling on Beijing not to support Moscow in the conflict.
In a recent poll of registered voters, former U.S. President Donald Trump is leading with 49% of the vote, while President Joe Biden is at 45% in a hypothetical 2024 matchup. This margin represents a widening gap compared to the same poll conducted in August. The poll was conducted through online and phone surveys using a representative sample of the population from the 27th of October to 2nd of November of this year. In the four-way presidential race, independent candidates Robert Kennedy Jr. secured 16% of the support, while Cornel West lagged significantly behind at 4%. The poll also revealed that only 28% of respondents believe that things are going fairly well in the country under President Biden's leadership. Notably, among Democrats, 51% expressed confidence in Biden's sharpness and stamina for the presidency. In contrast, 90% of Republicans believe that the former President Trump possesses the necessary qualities. As a result of these polling numbers, calls for President Biden to reconsider his campaign have gained momentum, indicating an increasingly challenging path to re-election for the incumbent president.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has ruled out holding a presidential vote in the spring, urging his countrymen to avoid political divides, saying that they must concentrate all resources on fighting Russia.
Ми повинні визначитись, що зараз час оборони, час битви, від якої залежить доля держави і людей, а не час вкидів, яких від України очікує лише Росія. Я вважаю, що зараз вибори не на часі.
Zelensky's comments follow increasing discussions about the possibility of a presidential election set for March of next year. Zelensky, who was elected for a 5-year term in March of 2019, had previously avoided definitive statements on the question, saying that he was looking into various possibilities. Ukrainian legislation bans elections during martial law that has been in place since the beginning of the Russia-Ukraine conflict back in February. Last week, his top military commander, General Valery Zaluzhny, rejected an assessment from the president that the war has grown into a stalemate. Since then, he has retracted his statements, warning against political rifts and strongly emphasizing the need for national unity.
Це не патова ситуація. Я ще раз підкреслюю це. Ми про це вже говорили. Це не якась там новина. Росія контролює небо. В наступальних місіях це зрозуміло, якщо ми бережемо наших військових, ми бережемо хлопців, дівчат. Коли вони контролюють небо, просто кидати, як Росія кидає, немов м'ясо своїх людей, ніхто не хоче.
Polish President Andrezj Duda remained loyal to the Nationalist Law and Justice Party by nominating outgoing Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki to try to form a new government, despite little to no chance for success.
Postanowiłem powierzyć misję sformowania rządu premierowi Mateuszowi Morawieckiemu. Tym samym zdecydowałem o kontynuowaniu dobrej tradycji parlamentarnej, zgodnie z którą to zwycięskie ugrupowanie jako pierwsze otrzymuje szansę utworzenia rządu.
Although the current administration is the largest party, taking 194 seats in the 460-member lower house of parliament, after 8 turbulent years in power, it has no realistic chances of wooing enough MPs to its side to amass a majority. Duda ignored an appeal by 3 opposition parties, which together control 248 parliamentary seats, despite their declaration that they will form a government with Donald Tusk, who served as prime minister from 2007 to 2014 as the new leader. Morawiecki has to present a cabinet to Duda within 2 weeks of the new parliament being summoned, then has another 2 weeks to present his program and hold a confidence vote. If he fails, then Parliament takes the initiative and proposes its own candidate.
Jeżeli misja przedstawiciela Prawa i Sprawiedliwości się nie powiedzie, wówczas w kolejnym kroku to Sejm wybierze kandydata na premiera, a ja niezwłocznie powołam go na to stanowisko. Wszystkie konstytucyjne zasady i terminy zostaną dochowane.
22 United Nations peacekeepers were injured in Mali when their convoy was struck by 2 explosive devices during their withdrawal from the country. The injured peacekeepers were promptly evacuated by air for necessary medical treatment in Gao. Since the peacekeepers left their base in northern Kidal, there have been 6 separate incidents, resulting in injuries to at least 39 peacekeepers. On the 1st of November, 8 peacekeepers were injured and evacuated, and another 7 were injured last Friday, all due to explosive devices. It remains unclear whether these devices had already been present in the area or if the peacekeepers were deliberately targeted.
The World Health Organization says that as a result of the Israel-Hamas war, an average of 160 children are killed each day in the besieged Gaza Strip. Spokesman Christian Lindmeier says the level of death and suffering is hard to fathom. Irvin Arquiza reports.
The war between Israel and Hamas has entered its 32nd day. WHO spokesman Christian Lindmeier describes what he says as an unfathomable result of the conflict.
The level of death and suffering is hard to fathom. Over 1,400 people have reportedly died in Israel, and just over 11,000 have now been reported dead in Gaza. That's 0.5% of the population of Gaza. An average of about 160 children are killed every day.
Lindmeier also mentions that so far the health agency has already delivered 8 truckloads of supplies. Much of this, he says, is urgently needed material including anesthesia. This, as people in the Palestinian enclave are being operated on for amputations and other things without anesthesia. Meanwhile, he calls for continuous and secure entry of aid trucks into the Strip.
Everything is set up. The logistics are there, the convoys are there, the supplies are there. What is not there is the access, and that's what is needed. We need unhindered, safe, and secure access all the way to the patients and to the hospitals. Getting across into Gaza is one thing. Getting further to the hospitals and the supply stations is the next step.
Israeli officials have said that Hamas's October 7 attack on southern Israel has killed at least 1,400 people. Meanwhile, the Hamas-run health ministry says retaliatory Israeli strikes on the besieged Gaza Strip have since killed at least 11,000 people. Irvin Arquiza for Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Trade figures show China's imports unexpectedly grew in October, while exports contracted at a quicker pace. Economists say imports in October rose 3% against forecasts for a 4.8% contraction and fluctuated from a 6.2% fall in September. Customs data show China's exports shrank 6.4% from a year earlier in October, faster than a 6.2% decline in September. Analysts say Beijing's support measures since June are helping China to recover temporarily. They aver the significant improvement in imports may also come from rising domestic demand to replenish stocks. The Iglesia ni Cristo holds an outreach activity for the residents of Airdrie, Alberta in Canada. A magnitude 7.2 earthquake strikes the Banda Sea in Indonesia. And Nintendo has some big news for Legend of Zelda fans worldwide. Mata ng Agila International will be back after a short break.
The sky. Kaya lumilipad na naman tayo. Sino ba itong uupo ngayon sa ating iconic chairs?
Finally, nag-guess na rin ako dito. Just canceled everything for you.
Talaga, ay naku, nakakatuwa naman. Medyo kakaiba ang ating papasukin ngayong araw. The Goodwill Resort with the Goodwill Cast. Woo! Tinur niya tayo sa kanyang bagong buhay.
Mundo.
Tamang-tama, pinag-uusapan sila ng lahat ngayon. Tingnan ka!
Ayan na.
Ayan na. Alam mo talaga siya, no? Yes! Tatlong
Ayan!
buwan!
We got
Kinasal
that.
ka na! Yes! Ngayon natin malalaman ang totoo. So now, let's spill the coffee.
Spill the coffee.
Yes. And we're here at Net25. Ito ang tahanan ng Corina Interviews.
The Iglesia ni Cristo launched an outreach activity for the residents of Airdrie, Alberta in Canada. Here's Adalia Carr for the details.
Approximately 22 kilometers north of Calgary, you'll find the city of Airdrie. With the demands of increasing inflation on top of the ever-growing population of the city, many families may find it difficult to find a stable means of living. But in recognizing the struggle, the Church of Christ lends a helping hand to those in need through a Care for Humanity event.
Excited, and I'm still excited to be here.
So I was definitely pleasantly surprised at what exactly they were doing, and there was definitely a lot more people than I thought there would be.
Giving away hundreds of care packages filled with non-perishable food items and necessities to recipients truly in need.
The affordability rate is difficult right now because as prices are rising for everything. So I think these care packages will mean a lot for those families who are really in need.
We're so thankful because the FYM Foundation is extending this assistance to the needy members of our community. And I'm talking about Filipinos as well as the non-Filipinos. We're coming into the winter season and a lot of people will need these provisions. Not all of them have the means to buy the things that you distributed. So I think, and I believe this is well appreciated by our community.
Holding the package, I can feel so many things in it, and that will benefit me in so many ways.
And while many learned about the Felix Y. Manalo Foundation for the first time today through this outreach event, they were amazed at just how extensive this outreach was.
I was very impressed by the projects that your organization has done and continuously working on. I think it makes me feel amazed, first of all, and I'm also proud. It makes me feel that humanity still exists, especially whatever is going on in the world nowadays. We do need people like this, such organizations that do reach out to those needy and affected people.
As we commemorate the birth anniversary of our most beloved Executive Minister, Brother Eduardo V. Manalo, the Iglesia Ni Cristo Church of Christ, in partnership with the Felix Y. Manalo Foundation, simultaneously all throughout the world, millions of care packages were prepared to give to our fellow men to show our care and love for them. Here in the city, Airdrie, in our venue, there were more than 1,000 in attendance. This is all due to God's help and mercy.
This work of providing help to communities, families, and individuals in need does not stop here in Airdrie, but will continue across Canada and to the rest of the world. The guests leave the event with joy as they're able to bring home with them care packages and, most importantly, a profound insight of what the Church of Christ is all about. From Calgary, Alberta, Canada, Odelia Carr, Worldwide Lingap sa Mamamayan special coverage.
The representation of Asian American culture on the big screen has been on a steady incline towards improvement over the years. The famous Chinese author Jeff Yang reflects on this achievement in his newest book, The Golden Screen, The Movies That Made Asian America. Bernadette Manuel has the details.
The past decade has signified a monumental shift towards the portrayal of Asian and Asian American stories in the media. But for Chinese author Jeff Yang, the journey to reach this celebratory status has not been completely easy. His newly published book, The Golden Screen, The Movies That Made Asian America, tackles the importance of Asian representations in film and how it has transitioned into depicting more relatable and fully dimensional roles. Together with his contributor, Preeti Chibber, they aim for this book to be a tool to establish the opportunities that are opened by normalizing Asian Americans in film. This comprehensive book has also garnered comments from famous actors, writers, and directors, with a foreword written by the Oscar-winning actress Michelle Yeoh. Yang features more than 130 films in his book, including the recent movies that reached global success such as Crazy Rich Asians and Everything Everywhere All at Once. Bernadette Manuel for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
In Argentina, heavy rains and flooding submerged the island of Apipe Chico and much of the province of Corrientes in the northern part of the country. Myla Simbulan has more.
The island of Apipe Chico lies 4 kilometers downstream from the Yacyretá Dam. The dam opened its gates last week after heavy rains in Argentina's neighbor Brazil caused water to flow downstream. Cattle farmers recall how the sudden floods did not give them time to salvage anything. The water, they say, swallowed everything, and the prolonged floods are not helping. They say opening the floodgate of Yacyretá was to avoid what happened before when many animals died. But the same thing they fear will happen because they could not get the animals out. And the forecast says to expect more rain in February or March. One resident says nothing is left of the land. Everything, she says, is now submerged in water. Environment officials blame the extreme weather on the El Niño phenomenon. Myla Simbulan for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Meanwhile, a 7.1 magnitude earthquake struck Indonesia's Banda Sea on Wednesday with no immediate reports of damage or casualties, according to the United States Geological Survey. No tsunami warning also was issued for the quake, which was initially reported as a magnitude 6.9 that happened 11:53 a.m. local time. According to the Indonesian Meteorological, Climatological and Geophysical Agency, or BMKG, the tremor was felt moderately in the town of Saumlaki in the archipelago's Tanimbar Islands. Indonesia experiences frequent earthquakes due to its position on the Pacific Ring of Fire, an arc of intense seismic activity that stretches from Japan through Southeast Asia and across the Pacific Basin.
In Southern California, a wooden hangar that was built to house military blimps was caught in a fire. In the footage, the structure was enveloped by fire and is on the verge of collapsing. Fire authorities say the blaze could burn for days. Fire Chief Brian Fennessy reported no injuries from the scene. Investigation is underway to trace the cause of the fire. Local officials say the hangar was one of two built in 1942 for the United States Navy. It was also used to capture scenes on X-Files, Star Trek, and Pearl Harbor, among other films.
Nearly 1 million chickens in a Minnesota farm will be slaughtered to help limit the spread of the highly contagious bird flu. The U.S. Department of Agriculture announced that the virus was found at a farm in Wright County, Minnesota, as well as in 3 smaller flocks in South Dakota and Iowa. Since last year, nearly 58 million birds, mostly chicken and turkeys, were slaughtered to deal with the virus, contributing to significantly higher egg and poultry prices. Officials stress that bird flu is not a threat to food safety because all the birds on a farm where the disease is found are slaughtered before they reach the food supply. Infections in humans are rare and usually come only in people with prolonged exposure to sick birds. Gold miners took to the streets in Bolivia's capital of La Paz, demanding the government to allow miners to prospect for gold in protected areas. Union leaders want a meeting with President Luis Arce to discuss their demands. Ralph Coronel reports.
The protest drew thousands of demonstrators. They are what is known as cooperative miners. Cooperatives are small autonomous associations that pay lower taxes than private companies. The Bolivian miners are upset the government will no longer give them permission to mine in protected areas. Local media reports that Monday's protest moved slowly through the streets with demonstrators setting off fireworks and dynamite blocks. The protests set up blockades around the city. The government is concerned about the use of mercury to extract gold from rivers in the Bolivian Amazon. Studies suggest mercury levels in the rivers are above legal limits. Mercury pollution can cause learning disabilities and other lifelong illnesses. Ralph Cornell from Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
In Libya, the deportation of about 600 undocumented Egyptian migrants to their country begins. Jeff Sanidad has the details.
An official of Libya's Directorate of Combating Illegal Migration confirmed the expulsion of 600 Egyptian nationals who entered the country illegally. The migrants are being driven back to the Egyptian border on buses, crossing territory controlled by a rival administration in the east. Many Egyptians passed through Libya in attempts to reach Europe. Thousands more, however, have lived there for years. Many of them work in agriculture, construction, and other sectors, particularly around the capital. The North African country has also become a hub for tens of thousands of migrants seeking to reach Europe by sea every year. In June, Libyan media had broadcast unverified footage showing nearly 1,000 Egyptians guarded by soldiers and forced to reach the Egyptian border on foot. The United Nations International Organization for Migration says over 700,000 migrants were present on Libyan territory between May and June of this year. Jeff Sanidad for Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Nintendo has confirmed that a live-action movie of the game franchise The Legend of Zelda is in the works. The game company announced that the film will be directed by Wes Ball, who directed the Maze Runner series and the upcoming Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. The Legend of Zelda creator Shigeru Miyamoto is set to produce the film with Avi Arad, producer of the Oscar-winning Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Zelda is one of the cult classic gaming franchises of all time, starting as a 2D 8-bit game in 1986. The plot is set in the Kingdom of Hyrule, with our hero Link, who must repeatedly save the land and its princess, the titular Zelda, from the evil and mostly from the villainous Ganon. Coming right up, Britain's Charles III gives first King's speech in 71 years. London's loneliest sheep has been rescued. And more names have been added to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Catch more news in sports and entertainment when we return.
Mga problemang may kinalaman sa pang-araw-araw na pamumuhay.
Ano sa palagay niyo?
Katiwalian at korupsyon sa kung saan-saan.
Ano sa palagay niyo?
Kalusugan.
Ano sa palagay niyo?
Edukasyon.
Ano sa palagay niyo?
Hanap buhay.
Ano sa palagay niyo?
Ang daming issue. Samahan ninyo sina Ali Soto at Pat P. Daza sa pagbusisi sa lahat ng yan at iba pa. Ano sa palagay nyo? Year 3 na!
Ang mikroponong ito'y naglalahad ng saloobin. Oras na para ipasa sa bagong makata natin. Galing ay ipamalas, pangarap ilabas. Itodo ang lakas, Rapstar Pilipinas.
Britain's King Charles has outlined UK's legislative priorities in a tradition-steeped ceremony called the King's Speech. From London, England, Love and Season reports.
Britain's King Charles III has delivered his first opening address of Parliament since ascending to the throne. The King laid out UK policy priorities in areas concerning economy, foreign diplomacy and criminal justice.
It is mindful of a legacy of service and devotion to this country set by my beloved mother, the late Queen, that I deliver this, the first King's Speech, in over 70 years.
Britain's annual address is known as the King's or Queen's Speech. It is a centuries-old tradition marking a new parliamentary session. King Charles's 10-minute speech covered priorities of the United Kingdom, from economy and foreign diplomacy to criminal justice. The King also stated a plan to phase out tobacco sales in England. Under the proposed law, anyone who was born on or after January 1, 2009 will never be allowed to legally buy cigarettes. Experts say the King is aligning UK's tobacco regulation with his environmental concerns.
My government will continue to lead action on tackling climate change and biodiversity loss, support developing countries with their energy transition, and hold other countries to their environmental commitments.
King Charles discussed data protection and regulation on artificial intelligence and self-driving cars. The King also confirmed the government's plan to push through with its media bill. With the introduction of the bill, the UK government can investigate and penalize online streamers like Netflix and Disney+. Independent broadcasters say they were happy with the inclusion of the media bill in the King's speech. King Charles also reaffirmed its support to Ukraine and Israel while insisting humanitarian aid to Gaza should continue. Experts believe King Charles's speech could be the first and last chance for Prime Minister Rishi Sunak to pitch his legislative agenda to the public. Love and Season, London, United Kingdom, reporting for Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Meanwhile, Prince William honored 5 environmental innovators with his Earthshot Prize at a star-studded ceremony in Singapore. The Earthshot Prize initiative aims to support the development of solutions to the planet's biggest problems, like climate change, deforestation, and waste. The 5 winners were given £1 million each.
The focus of my visit this week is how we collectively overcome our planet's greatest environmental challenges. Like all initiatives created through the Royal Foundation, United for Wildlife and the Earthshot Prize are underpinned by finding innovative solutions to some of the world's most pressing issues.
This year, Action Andina won the prize for Protect and Restore Nature. Hong Kong-based company Gerst picked up the Clean Our Air Prize for developing a way to build and recycle lithium-ion batteries that pollute less and use more recyclable components. The prize for Build a Waste-Free World went to S4S Technologies, which provides solar-powered dryers and food processing equipment to smallhold farmers in India to reduce crop wastage. U.S. nonprofit organization World Aid's Marine Program won the Revive Our Oceans Prize. Bumitra, a carbon credit marketplace that rewards farmers for sustainable land management practices, received the Fix Our Climate Prize. Prince William founded the Earthshot Prize in 2020. The name was inspired by United States President John F. Kennedy's Moonshot project in the 1960s. A female sheep, or ewe, that was described as the loneliest sheep in Britain has been rescued after being stranded at a remote shore in the Scottish Highlands for over 2 years. Britain's loneliest sheep, now named Fiona, has been spending the last 2 years stuck on the foot of the Scottish cliffs of Cromarty Firth when a group of farmers took it upon themselves to execute her dangerous rescue. Although animal welfare charities have warned about the complexity of rescuing Fiona, Cammie Wilson, together with 4 other farmers, were kind enough to pursue the end of the sheep's flight. Wilson stated that his determination to save the sheep was also ignited by the media's coverage, wherein an online petition for Fiona's rescue mission garnered more than 52,000 signatures.
With some heavy equipment, and we've got this sheep up an incredible slope. Let me just bring you in close to her here. Fiona.
In the Premier League, Chelsea has ended 9-man Tottenham Hotspur's unbeaten start of the season. Nicholas Jackson's hat trick inspired a 4-1 win filled with video assistant referee or VAR drama. 5 goals, 2 red cards, and 21 minutes of stoppage time are just also some of the numbers behind what was a chaotic game. Both teams had goals disallowed by VAR, while Tottenham's misfortune also included losing playmaker James Maddison and offender Mickey van de Ven to first-half injuries. Chelsea finally made the most of their numerical advantage when striker Jackson netted 3 times in the closing stages to hand Tottenham their first defeat in 11 league games. Ange Postecoglou's team, however, remains in second place, while Chelsea moved up to 10th place after their first win in 3 league games.
Daniel Radcliffe has opened up about the injury his stunt double David Holmes suffered during their filming in the Harry Potter movie. HBO recently unveiled the trailer for the documentary David Holmes, The Boy Who Lived, about Radcliffe's stunt person. Holmes was a teen gymnast when he began working in stunts with Radcliffe. He suffered a spinal injury on the Harry Potter set, which left him forever paralyzed. Radcliffe has reportedly apologized to Holmes several times. Now, he said he did not want to talk about Holmes' life as a tragedy. Over the years, Radcliffe and Holmes formed a close bond. This year, the Harry Potter actor decided to put the spotlight on Holmes for viewers to see how his stunt person's life put a shine to others. Some of the biggest names in music were honored at the 2023 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Bernadette Manuel has the scoop.
The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which began 40 years ago, has welcomed the class of 2023 to its extensive roster. Kate Bush, known for her sleeper hit Running Up That Hill as featured on the hit Netflix series Stranger Things, together with Sheryl Crow, Missy Elliott, George Michael, Willie Nelson, grunge rock band Rage Against the Machine, and The Spinners were all inducted, along with DJ Kool Herc and Link Wray for musical influence, Chaka Khan, Al Cooper, and Bernie Taupin for musical excellence, and Don Cornelius for the Ahmet Ertegun Award. Artists must have released their first commercial recording at least 25 years before they are eligible for induction. Nominees were voted for by more than 1,000 artists, historians, and music industry professionals. The event also brought out performers and presenters such as Adam Levine, Brandy Carlisle, Chris Stapleton, Elton John, Her, Olivia Rodrigo, Queen Latifah, Sia, and Stevie Nicks. The 38th annual star-studded event was held at the Barclays Center in New York City and was streamed live on Disney Plus for the first time. Bernadette Manuel reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
And already halfway through the week again,
Yes,
just like
wow.
that. And to send you off this Wednesday night, here's our quote from Polish physicist and chemist Marie Curie. Nothing in life is to be feared, it is only to be understood. Now is the time to understand more so that we may fear less.
I think we all have the tendency to want to try new things, but we're scared to do it because we have that fear of failing. And I think that's what she means. It's okay, just try it out.
And you know the term, the fear of not knowing.
Yes.
It's very natural for people to fear what they do not understand.
That's very true. So maybe break out of your shell a little bit more, get out of your comfort zone this week.
Oh, yes.
That's a wrap for tonight's news. Catch the latest updates on our social media channels. I am Gianna Llanes.
I am Nina Richielago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Thank you for choosing news source, connecting you to the world and on point with stories from around the globe. Follow, like, and subscribe to @Net25 TV.